I'm going to be breaking down two trades which I took to make $12,000 for this client. Now this is a FTMO challenge account, and in just two trades alone I was able to make $12,000. The first trade that I took was on GBP JPY and I took sales, and that made me around 7.2k. And then I took another trade on gold the very next day, which made me around 4.8k. Now once I took these two trades for the week, that was more than enough profit, and so for the rest of the week I just stayed out the market. And it's very important to be disciplined and understand when you should stay out the market and when you should take several opportunities throughout the week. Now we want to be focusing on quality and not quantity, and that's why two trades for the week was more than enough. So the first trade was on GBP JPY. If we come on over to my trading view and make this bigger, you can see that on the 4-hour time frame, I've used the replay tool now. On the 4-hour time frame, we are bearish. Now you can see this huge bearish push down, breaking all sorts of structures, and now we've come back and retraced around 50%. So if I use this Fibonacci, you can see price has retraced back up into this golden zone, which is between the 50% and the 61.8%. Now this can just be used as a confluence. My strategy does not depend on the Fibonacci, but it does help to add these layers of confluences when you're taking these trades. So having said that, we can then also just mark out roughly that sort of region, the golden zone, so we're aware that this is the sort of area we're looking to take sales off of. Once that was determined, I then dropped down to the 30-minute time frame, which is where I ultimately ended up taking the sells. Now the reason I took sells right from this candle over here, with my stops just above these highs over here, so let's just say roughly around here, and I was targeting from the 4-hour time frame. So if we jump back to the 4-hour time frame, we can say that maybe targeting back to these lows would make sense. So on the 30-minute time frame, once these entries were taken, the reason I'm taking these entries is we've pushed up into this level of resistance, and price has now formed a sort of top, and price is failing to break above it. Once we've seen this sort of top being formed, you can then see a bearish engulfing candle, at which point I entered these sells, and then we just let price play along, and you can see a nice drop. Once I saw this drop, this is exactly where I ended up closing my trade, roughly around this region over here, because I was more than happy with the profit. As you can see, I made around 7.2k, which is more than enough, so there was really no need for me to continue on holding this trade. So this is exactly how I capitalized off this move. Now I've also journaled these trades. So the one we was going over was GBP JPY, and as you can see, I've taken screenshots of the higher time frame and then the lower time frame over here. So this is exactly where I entered with my stops above the high, and this is where I ended up closing for my trade. Now in terms of the gold trade, this was an absolute crazy trade which I regret not holding further. As you can see, this is where I ended up closing my trade out, but had I just held on for 5 more minutes, we would have got a huge push right up, breaking through these highs, and then another follow through which came out due to some sort of fundamental news. If we see it on a 1-hour time frame, this would have been a huge push up, which I unfortunately was not able to capitalize off. However, we still made 4.8k, which is more than enough, so we shouldn't get greedy in the markets. So if I break this trade down for you guys, this was a bit more of an intricate trade, as I took this on the 5-minute time frame in comparison to the GJ trade which I took on the 30-minute time frame. So looking at the 4-hour time frame, we can see and determine our bias to be bullish as we're forming higher highs and higher lows, and our most recent level of demand will be at 1907.560. So unless price can break below this region, I'm looking for buys and buys only. Dropping down to the 1-hour time frame, we can see that a nice level of demand can be marked out as such right over here. Now what I done in this case was, since this was not extremely holding that sort of level, I looked further back, and this level right over here, which is in line with this black line, which is my 4-hour level, which gives me 2 confluences and determines the fact that price has come back into my level of demand with this sort of demand region right over here. Once this was determined and I saw weakness during Asia during Asia and London session, which is during this period. I then waited for New York session to start, and this is where I ended up taking my entries. So if you look on the 5-minute time frame, again focusing on structure, you can see this will be our most recent level of demand. If we change the color to a green box to highlight that this is on the 5-minute time frame, you see price has pushed into our level of demand, and now we want to see this level of demand hold before we look for buys. So I saw this huge push up. However, I was still a bit hesitant as we have formed some sort of top right over here, some sort of mini level of supply. So I wanted to see that level break, or at least hold that level before I look for buys. And so that's exactly what I done. I wait for a bearish candle, and this is exactly where I ended up entering. So I got my entries right from over here. Stops were again below these lows, so let's just say stops were around here. And again, I was targeting based off the 1 hour level. Since our structural level was the 1 hour, you want to be targeting your 1 hour levels. So this was going to be roughly around TP1, as we did see an opposite candle, so some sort of traffic can build up right over here. However, overall I was targeting these highs right over here. So if we play this out on the 5-minute time frame, we've seen an immediate push up. And another important thing I need to highlight is I will not move my stop loss to break even after that first initial push up. Once price has progressed onwards and created another higher high, this is when it's safe to roll stop to break even. Because when you're rolling stops to break even, it needs to make sense. You can't just randomly roll stop to break even because you're afraid of turning a winner into a loser. It needs to have logical reasoning as to why you're rolling stops. So at this point, if you want to roll stops to break even, you can, as price has continued to form further higher highs. Had you roll stops after this initial push up, you would have gotten taken out break even and missed this nice push up. So as you can see, this roughly around that region over there, if I can drag this tool right the way back down, I ended up closing my trade roughly around this region. But had I chose to hold and see what the next candle does, this would have been a huge profit for me right over here. And to be honest, I would have been more than happy to close out over there, even though what happened next was even more crazy as soon as news came out. So if you play it along, you can see a crazy huge push up. Now this is something I would not recommend you guys to be holding through, as FOMC is quite volatile, and this could have easily gone the other way and taken us out and caused some sort of slippage. So I highly recommend not to trade during news. However, this push up would have been legitimate and a good reason to close out right over here. However, nonetheless, I did still catch a nice risk to reward, and I also ended up journaling it right over here as well. So this is how it ended up looking at once I journaled it. And in summary, I just said hold your trade unless there's a sign to close it in accordance to your strategy. So again, I'm just reminding myself that really there was no reason for me to be closing out, as there was no signs of price finding a top over here, and I should have rather closed out higher near enough my TP1s, which was roughly around this level over here, which I originally mentioned. However, nonetheless, it was still good profit, still made around 4.8k, and ended the week up $12,000. Now that is amazing profits. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video.